Then for talk from tonight, we invited Shahab all the way from Vienna, and he took a very long way to come here to talk about Roslyn compilers and how to teach the Roslyn compilers or the C# compiler a couple of new tricks, maybe. So yeah, please give a big round of applause for speaker from tonight.
Okay, thanks for having me here. And I am Shahab, and today it's Roslyn 101. I usually design this to think about Roslyn from a developer experience perspective, because when I first started learning that, we used that to enhance how our developers could be more productive and not doing the boilerplate codes. And today we want to go through an example and see what were the scenarios that at that point in time we had more or less. It's just optimized for a talk, and we see where source generators could help, where diagnostic analyzers and CodeFix providers could help us to handle that. A little bit of introduction. I'm Shahab. I'm working at Square in Vienna, and I'm a lead coding architect, which is another word for I'm not just creating diagrams and boxes, but I'm also writing code next to the team, and we try to implement everything together and brainstorm that. I'm also a father of 2 amazing kids, so it is expected of me. This is a constant sentence I'm saying, to tell dad jokes. And I really expect the audience to laugh, because if you don't do that, the feelings of those dads will be hurt. And I basically grew up with .NET and C#, even though I did a lot of side tracks, doing Java, Python, TypeScript, database administration, whatever. And but I started with C# 1 and .NET Framework 1.1. So even though I don't look that old, but yes, I am that old. Actually, tomorrow I will be 41. So. And I'm embracing change, and I'm also doing some community work in Microsoft MS Farsi and Microsoft Zero to Hero also. We are also looking for speakers if someone is interested. Doesn't matter if you're a seasoned speaker or just hitting the stage as well for the first time. We could work together. And more importantly, I'm from a country which is currently facing very huge atrocities, and the people of that country doesn't have a voice to raise their voices. There are massacres going there, more than 12,000, 20,000 people are killed. So, and if this flag is also a little bit weird to you, it's the original flag, and it's pre-revolution 1979 flag. And if I didn't manage something tonight, it's just emotionally I might missing some semicolons. So feel free to shout out and say. So I hope my people also find at some point the freedom to be able to contribute, as they have always done throughout the history, to the whole world's culture and science and art and music and poets and everything. They are amazing people. So yeah. And I'm also on the internet. You could approach me. I'm writing some blog posts sometimes if I have enough time. And yeah, with that, let's start the actual thing that we gathered here together for that. I'm actually happy that people are scanning this QR code. I always had to say, please scan this QR code, and now people are voluntarily doing that. So it makes me happy. I will share it afterwards as well, but let's go to the code. I'm not sure if it is zooming. Is it good? Okay. And should I do that in, let's try light theme as well. Not really good? No one's the fan of light theme. Okay, okay. Let's go to the darkness. Okay, what do I have here? Let me just close everything. Maybe if I just run the application, let's see what do I have. So this is an application. It's a very simple thing. We have a list of customers that hopefully we don't have any at the moment. Let's see if it works in the internet and everything. Oh boy. Okay. We have this portal. Some people could come here, register as our customers, and then we have someone in the admin part of the application that could confirm their registration after they reviewed all the details or something. So we tried like to mimic this behavior. And let's go for like this. For now, just let's see if do I have a breakpoint or something somewhere? Yeah, it already breaks. Let's see. Please work. Do I have internet? Yes, I do. Okay, it hits the breakpoint. For some reason, that is actually honestly not obvious why. Okay, I don't know why it's not working. It uses Cosmos DB behind the scenes, so it could be Azure is down. And nevertheless, what I wanted to implement after registering is confirm registration, that we didn't have it implemented. And I expected it to be something like this. So it is using event sourcing behind the scene. And with everyone's familiar with event sourcing? Those who are not familiar with event sourcing? Okay, so event sourcing is a storage pattern that we, instead of storing the current state of the entity in the database, we are storing the things that happened to that entity. And then by replaying those things, we are creating the current state. For example, customer registered as an event is something that happened, is the first event that is happening for a customer entity. And then if the admin confirms this registration, it gets this registration confirmed stored in the database, right? And if I want to see if a customer is a confirmed customer or is still in the process of confirmation, I could just play the events for those separately and get the final state of that thing. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating an event stream, like see all these events that are happening as the stream or data that is happening one after another. And for this customer ID, I'm getting everything that is already stored for that customer. And then in this get entity, I'm having like a for each loop. If I go there, like this is like a naive implementation. And I'm applying all those events that are happening to create the current state of this customer, right? And when it returns that data, here we are checking if there are some events for this instance of this customer ID. If there is nothing, then I'm just returning maybe of none because I love functional programming, so maybe is an option, right? And then if I go to here, and if it is a none, we throw an exception, customer not found, the ID was wrong, and then if it is, we unwrap that and return this value. But if it is not it is not confirmed yet, we are creating an event for that, and we are storing that event in the database. I'm trying to running it again to see if Azure is up and running. Let's go back in here.
Are you in the guest Wi-Fi?
I do.
Maybe it's port blocked?
Okay, then I'm just switching to my iPhone.
Try your hotspot, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see if it's working. Okay, let's go back here. Okay, yeah, it seems that it could have been the. So Azure was fine.
This time. This time.
Yeah. So I'm registering here, and if I, hopefully it redirects me there to the list of customers, didn't. And now I could click on confirm registration. And this is actually the exception that I have originally planned to happen. So, in the first time I represented this talk, I was just pretending that I don't know why this exception is happening, to show the frustration of developers when they are asked last minute, like, to deploy something to production, and that something is breaking, and they're just like pulling their hairs trying to figure out what this issue is about. And this issue is coming from this fact. Let me go to iEvent. So I'm using a system.text.json serializer. And when you're using that, for the events to be stored, I'm having this iEvent interface. So I could, like, whenever I need an event to be stored, I could just make sure that it is an iEvent, just not to getting object, like the object thingy. And when you have inheritance, so if I'll go, for example, to the confirm registration, confirmed, registration confirmed, you'll see it is inheriting from the iEvent. And the system.text.json, when you do that, you need to come to the interface that you are realizing it, adding this JSON derived type thingy. So here, because I don't have that one for this new registration confirmed event, it was failing. Now, if I run this again, I should be able to confirm the registration at that here. So just refreshing the page. And now it's working, right? But this is a very tiny detail that it is hidden in my code base somewhere, that I have this iEvent thingy. And it is a task that could be repeated multiple times. Like, as much as I'm creating more events, I just need to come here. And it is likely to happen that the developer forgets about that. Yes, of course, I could have unit tests for that. I could have tested those things. But there are, when you're under pressure, sometimes it just gets through and you don't recognize these kind of things. So, and also it's like good to automate the tasks that could be automated by the compiler, right? And just the developer focuses on the actual business that they need to implement. For that, we could create a source generator that actually generates this part for us every time we are creating an event. And then it automatically is there, and we don't need to care about that. And just imagine if we don't do that, and if we grow, like in the application grows, this code would look like something like this. Like it easily could get bloated with things that you don't want really to be there, right? So let's create a source generator that generates this for us. Before starting with creating any source generator, it is always good to analyze what you want to do and what is needed to be done, right? Not just like think twice, code once, kind of a mindset to have in there, right? So if I go back, here I need the type of the event, I need the name of the event, and probably I need the namespaces of those events to be as metadata to be able, like, to generate this code, right? And if I copy this part, there is a very good website called SharpLab. Is the zooming enough, or should I zoom? Tell me stop when it's fine. Yeah. So sharplab.io is providing a lot of different things, like from the lowered C# to the IL that it generates. But one of the interesting things when you are working with Roslyn is the syntax tree, I'm not calling it abstract syntax tree because it is not an abstract syntax tree. It preserves everything from your source code, like white spaces, which are called like trivias. These are these grayish things. All good? Okay. And like the spaces, the tabs, the comments that you have in your code, everything is preserved for you. And there are this root node called compilation unit. It is kind of equivalent to the source file that you have. So every compilation unit is kind of the source file that you have in your project, and they are mapping to each other, one-on-one mapping. And for everything, if I, for example, click on this record, you will see it has a record declaration. So for every C# keyword, for everything that you're using on your day-to-day job for a C#, even like a semicolon, parentheses, classes, records, public keyword, everything has a C# class representing that. And in this syntax tree, it shows it as a record declaration. And the C# class representing a record declaration is record declaration syntax. So just add a syntax at the end of almost everything, and you will get its C# represented. So if I go, for example, file scope namespace declaration, syntax, right? So most of the time, it is like that. And these are called syntax nodes, if I'm not mistaken. And syntax node could contain nodes like as well, or syntax tokens or trivias. And syntax tokens do not contain anything else. They cannot. They are like the leaves of this tree, right? So here the namespace keyword, for example. This is it, right? But the file scope namespace declaration, you see it is highlighting the thing. When I'm selecting it, it is highlighting what is out there, right? And by examining these things, we could get informations. For example, I'm not interested in every record that exists in my code. I'm just interested, let's say if I want to filter out like what is going on. I'm interested in the records that are inheriting from something, right? And just one thing maybe, if we want to stick to this example, and it should be I-event, right? So if I click on this, you will see it is a simple base type. It is in the base list, right? And it is part of this record declaration. So by these things, I could figure out what I might need when I'm analyzing and I want to implement my source generator. Let's see where it helps. So in this project, I have source generators in project in here. The first thing is, first of all, it is a normal .NET project, class library project, which I'm not sure, is it still .NET Standard 2, or did they remove the limitation?
I tried 1 month ago to make a .NET 10 one, and it didn't work.
Okay, so still, let's stay with this assumption. It should be .NET Standard 2, the source generator project itself, but it could be used in other like .NET 10 projects, right? And the reason for that, I think, if I'm not mistaken, is the Visual Studio is like using WPF and those kind of technologies that still needs like this to be there. And it should be is Roslyn component true, and you need a couple of packages like Microsoft Code Analyzers C#. You need to add this package to be able to create source generators. After that, so I'm having this JSON attribute event generator. Naming is hard, so just please accept that name from me. There are 2 types of source generators. One is iSource generator, if I remember that. It's the classic way and the old way of doing that, and it is recommended not to doing that anymore because the Visual Studio team hit a performance issue with that thing, and they came up with iincremental generator. And this is the new way to create source generators. So always you need to implement this interface and also mark your source generator with a generator attribute. So these are the first 2 steps now, like the second and third step after referencing the package. And there's then just one initialize method to implement, which gives you a whole context about what's going on in this compilation round that is happening as you are typing. So every time you are typing a keyword, whatever you have in here is called. I'm just saying every time, but it's not accurate enough. So in theory, if we messed up, every time the whole thing is running by every key press. But it comes with different, so we call this like the source generator pipeline. It has different steps, and these steps are just changing something and passing the result to the next step. And within these steps, there could be caching that is in place. The first thing is the predicate. That is what we analyze. We need every record declaration that has a base list, that this base list is named iEvent or something. So here we are predicting what we are needed. It needs to be as fast as possible because it is calling this on every key press. And we don't want the compiler, the ID, and everything to be blocked because this takes too much time, right? So let's implement that first. And I think it should be it. So here I'm just checking if the node that we are processing at the moment is a record declaration or class declaration, and if it has any base list with the name iEvent. That's fine for me. This is one way to implement this stuff. Like I have an interface, which is a marker interface, and I'm just using that one. There are better ways as well. I mean, it depends on the context that how you are working. And that you could also put attribute on top of things that you want to select in here. And then based on that attribute, you are selecting them immediately. And as of .NET 9, if I'm not mistaken, they added this .for attribute with metadata name that you just give the fully qualified namespace and the name of the attribute, and it just gives you everything that this attribute is on top of that, which is faster than what usually we are implementing in this predicate. So it could be something to take a look into when you are writing your generator to see if that approach is fitting or not. After this predicate is done, it selects a couple of these nodes that we are interested in. So not every record that we have in our source base, but those that we marked as iEvent. And then the next step is happening, which we call the transform step. In this transform step, from the whole compilation information that we have, we try to select those things that are important for us. For example, the name of this class, the type of this class, and the namespace is something that currently we are interested in this, right? We don't care if this class implemented tons of interfaces. We don't care if it has any method or anything else. These are just the information we are interested in. And I'm generating the mapping function. Yes, so one important thing, once in a while, when you want to start a heavy operation during this source generation, check if the cancellation token is already requested or not. Because it could happen that the user is calling .NET build, and at the middle of the build, it hits Control-C and wants to cancel the thing, right? Then what's the purpose of going through generating everything that is not needed, right? So every once in a while, it is good like to have this cancellation token checking if it is. And then from the information, I'm just gathering what I need, and I'm creating an interface with events instance with those information, which is here. It is a read-only record struct, which is something that every value is that it is like a value object. So every time that the compiler wants to see whether something has changed, it could cache this instance that I'm returning, and it could compare the values within that, right? So here, do not return anything that is reference type, like syntax node, classes, things that might be compared by their reference value, because every time, why? Because Roslyn is using immutability. So every time you're hitting it, you're doing a key press, it generates a new syntax tree, generates a new, the whole thing is like new, and then comparing those things, it's always false. But if it compares the values of those things, it gets, okay, even though this is in a new tree, but they are the same thing. So this part of the tree has not changed, so I don't have to go and generate anything for that. Make sense? Okay, so that's why here you should create like a record struct that could be compared. And then we are passing we have this register source output. Here we could now actually generate a source that is used by the compiler based on the information that we have. Not necessarily a file, because it just needs to be something that the compiler could get as an input, attach it to other sources that it has, and make sense out of this compilation. So let me create that one as well. Let's see if I could do the zoom a little bit. Sorry, because I don't see anything in here. Okay, I just zoomed. Okay, I don't know what I did. Here we just we start with like marking this file with auto-generated. So if someone sees this file somewhere, they know that this is auto-generated. They shouldn't change this because it might be on next compilation be like something else. And then we are creating, like referencing the namespaces that we need. So these are all the namespaces from all those records that we gathered in previous steps. And we are like in a for each loop, we are just creating the namespace. We are adding these attributes that was on top of the class, and here interface, and here I'm creating like public partial interface. Has anyone used with the partial classes and partial interfaces and things like that? Okay, almost everyone knows. So this is like two different locations. Compiler combine them together and just makes one complete output, and that's why this partial things. And then I'm saying that whatever source that we are creating by this appending the strings together, put it inside this event JSON attribute .g.c. G stands for generated, and then yeah, put this as an output. And if I build the project, and by the way, I have tests for that, which probably I could run. Which is funny because I have tests for my source generator, but not for my application. So, and if we go now to this, the thing is that I need to reference the project. Customer management system, this is the analyzer, this is the source generator. So it is a normal project reference because it's a normal project, but we have to tell the compiler that this is an analyzer. So source generators are also some sort of an analyzer. We will see what our analyzer is doing later on. And we don't want the output, like this project to be referenced in the output. Like when we are building the actual project, we don't want this DLL to be outputted like alongside with that. This is just a compilation dependency, not the runtime dependency, right? And now if I build the project, I'm getting an error which says duplicate JSON polymorphic attribute, right? And if I'll go to this event, here it is complaining about that one. And the reason is that in Rider, if I go to dependencies, .NET 10 and source generators, it has generated this file for me, which is everything that we needed. And this attribute is duplicated. So now if I go to the event, I could remove everything from here and just have a clean code that plays some role in my business logic and not caring about all the technicalities in here. And to prove that it still works, let's just register another customer and confirm its registration. Because we don't have unit tests for our application, so I need to do it manually every time. Bear with me. This is another error that was planned actually, but we will get there. So another Shahab. And let's just put some random. Oh, come on. Days there. I think it is registered because it is green. Okay, I guess I cannot prove that because I have one customer that its registration is confirmed, right? And as mentioned, when we are doing event sourcing, we need to replay those events. And what is missing in my code, if I go to my customer class, we say we're applying those events to the instance that we are creating to create the current state of this customer. And the registration confirmed is missing in this in this class as well. So every time I'm creating a new event, I need to first of all add the attributes on the top of I events, and then I need to go to the customer or order position or whatever entity that I have in my business domain, right? And create these apply methods for that, like for that specific events. And I didn't know that, right? So that's why this is failing at the moment. So I need something like public void apply customer, sorry, registration confirmed, right? Let's say just this, and then here I say if that happens, just set this to true. Why this is important? Because in if I could just find the, because here on the for each, when I'm getting the events, I'm calling an apply method, and when there's no apply method for the registration confirmed, I'm getting a runtime error because it says I cannot find a method that matches this signature that you are expecting, right? So this is something that I forgot to implement, which could have been generated as well for me. One way I saw that is like to create a partial method. Who knows about partial method? Okay, partial methods are like partial classes and partial anything else that is existing in C#. You are generating or you are creating the syntax of the method somewhere, and then you have the implementation somewhere else, and then they will be combined together. Okay, so let's, I have another source generator for that. Let's just leave this in here and implement the other source generator, which is just basically a review of what this is a test, right? Oh, yeah, of course I have tests for them. And this should be the pipeline. So again, we say we need a predicate to select what we are interested in and what we want to transform, and then we are outputting the source. And in the predicate, it is basically the same predicate as the previous one. So we're interested in record declarations, if they are starting with an I event or something like that. And then in the information that we need is a little bit more than that. We need the aggregate name. So here now I need to know this event belongs to which class, right? Because I could have customers, I could have orders, I could have addresses, right? And they could have different events. And I need this partial method, this apply method, to if the event is for customer to be in the customer class. If the event is for the order, I need it to be in the order class, right? So that's why we need this, I call it aggregate name. Again, gathering this information the same way. It should be something that it could be cached by the compiler, by the pipeline that is generating that, and then we have the generator. If I could, yes. Again, here we are getting an array of all those events. So I am aggregating all the events of customer into an array, and then for the whole array, I'm generating one file. Like for all of those events, I'm generating one file. What we could have done is just like for each event, we generate one file, and like because it's a partial class, it would be like 10 partial classes combined together. But I just like took this approach to go for this this way, like aggregating all those events. And again, it is like string builder appending the lines of the codes that is needed, whether the class is sealed, for example, or not, and then partial and the aggregate name is in here. And now if I also build again, I will get errors. So first of all, it says type customer already defines a member called apply, blah, blah. And also it says partial method customer apply must have an implementation. So if I'll go to the generated files, here we have the second one. And this is how partial methods work. So in my partial class, I have this signature. I don't know how its implementation is because it's the part of the business logic that needs to implement this one. But I know how the signature of this method would look like. So I could hand over this to the source generator. And now I just need to go to my customer class. First of all, I need to mark the already existing ones as partial. I think it is private partial void. You see the errors are immediately gone. And also for this one. And the important thing is that the signature should match. So if it is a private partial void, you cannot implement it as a public thingy. And now we should be fine again. Let's see now if the whole app is working. Please don't break. And we see the one that is there. And if I go here, let's just try register again. Seems to be registered. Customers. And I could now confirm registration. And I could go to see the show details. And it just shows the details. Questions so far? Or should we keep the question answer to the end of the session? OK. I just want to show another thing. Let's just register something here. Now if I go to show details here, for the unconfirmed one, we get an exception. If I could find what was the exception about. Oh, sorry. Again. Let's do a refresh here. So here I'm getting customer is not confirmed, right? And it tells me it is in the handle, get customer handler, handle, and let's go there and see why is it complaining. Get customer handler. I'm just stopping the application. Customer is not confirmed. So we are getting the customer information. If it is not registered, first of all, this is returning a maybe of customers. So, and it was agreed upon in our team that when we are returning a result or we're returning a maybe or something, we should not throw any exceptions. We should return maybe.none or result.error. So we're not handling the exception, the error cases with an exception. But for somehow this went through, and even though the method is returning a maybe of something, we are throwing an exception, which is not something that we agreed upon in our team. It also went through the whole pull request and everything. And this is something that we could also prevent by, at the compilation time, compiler tells us that this is not what agreed upon in your team, and you need to change this to something else. And this is where diagnostic analyzers can play a good role. So they could catch things that are not something that is usual in your team, or you could also have coding standards or rules that applies to your framework that you are creating, right? And then you could apply these rules or force developers to apply these rules when they are developing the application. I have, here we have the analyzer part. And of course, it has tests, we get there. But let's say maybe semantic analyzer. It is inheriting from diagnostic analyzer, and it has the diagnostic analyzer attribute on top of that. It also needs a diagnostic ID, which is kind of an ID that is unique, and this ID is used when the compiler wants to report diagnostics. We have seen these diagnostics. If I run a build, we probably get something in here, maybe not. And so usually when you have an error, there is an error code attached to this error, or when you have a warning, there is an error for like a code for that warning. We will see that later. This is this diagnostic ID for that thing that is happening. The diagnostic could be something that the compiler is reporting, or it could be a custom code that we are writing and it is reporting that. So here, SHG is obviously standing for my initials, and the 001 is like the code that I'm assigning to this analyzer that we are creating. Some descriptions, some messages are here. Category, is it a usage category? Is it a compilation category? Is it a recommendation category? And the important thing is this diagnostic descriptor, which combines all those things that we are creating, like with the ID, the title, the category, the severity level. Like, do we want this to be a warning? Do we want it to be reported by default as an error? Because it would lead to some runtime error, and we need like to prevent the compilation, right? And is it by default enabled or not? So let's stick with this for now. I mean, let's change it to error. I don't like it to remain there. And you see here, I already get some warning, but I don't know what it is. But let's see. This RS2001 is actually the diagnostic ID of something that is now analyzing my diagnostic analyzer. So there is an analyzer analyzing my source generator and my diagnostic analyzer. So like to give me best practices. If we have time, we will get to there. And then it also has the initialize method, and then we are registering an operation. So we say, if, for example, you saw a throw statement or you saw an if statement, right? There are like operations that I want to hook into the compilation, and you run my operation over that thing and tell me like if everything is fine or not, or I'm deciding based on my logic that everything is fine or not. So why do I am interested in the throw statement? Let's go to the code that we had in this get customer. So what I at least designed is that I thought wherever you see a throw statement, what I want to analyze is like I'm going upward in the tree. Let's copy this actually to SharpLab and see that in here. Maybe it will. So if I'll go in here, we have this throw statement, right? And you see its operation is throw in here. So this is why I'm interested in the throw operations, and I'm registering something to hook to this operation that is happening when the compiler is like analyzing the syntax tree, right? And in this syntax tree, this throw statement definitely exists somewhere, right? It's not just randomly. I cannot have a throw statement within a namespace. It's probably inside a method, right? And then I want to go up this tree to get to a method declaration probably. Let's see here, I have this handle, and it is of local function statement because I don't have a class or something in here, right? But if I had a class, let's try. Public class, oh, come on. Public class, no. Okay, let's get back in here. Let's copy the whole thing. And now if I click on this method handle, you see it is now changed to a method declaration. So it's not local function statement something, it is method declaration. So I want from throw statements go up, get to a method declaration. Analyze if the return statement is maybe of something, I am interested in that. If it is not that, then it's fine, do whatever you want, right? So this is what we are implementing in here. I am not sure what is my code snippet, but let's see the analyzer. Yeah, it was the whole method. Sorry for that. So again, always like check for the cancellation. I am checking if it's a throw operation. You don't need to do that. And there is here something which is important is the semantic model. Semantic model is kind of like reflection, but not at runtime, but at compile time. So it gives you the meaning of things. For example, int is integer, right? Int 32 is also an integer, right? They are syntactically different things, but they have the same meaning when it comes to compilation, right? So this semantic model is give you that about everything. And why I need that, because it could happen that someone else created a class named maybe, but it's not the thing that I'm looking for, like not in the same namespace, not in the same package. So I'm interested in this one that we have. And that's why I need the semantic model, because I want the meaning of this maybe that we are finding in the code as a string. And from there, we are comparing the return type of the method, and we are comparing it with the actual maybe class that we had, with one argument as its generic argument. If they are not the same, anything is failing here, we just ignore the operation. But if everything was fine, we are saying that we need to create a diagnostic with this rule that we created at the top at this location. The location is where this is a squiggles, like whether it's a warning or an error or I don't know, information is showing up. So we want to show it under the throw statement itself. And that is the syntax node that we are analyzing, because we registered here for operation of throw. So we are sure that it is under that. And let's build it, I think. And you already see I have a bunch of errors in here. One of them happening in here, which is also something that we didn't see before, but it's there. But let's go to the get customer. Do I have reference that thing? Let's open this. Let's reference the analyzer. It's the same way to reference it. And now you see immediately it happened. I didn't even build the project or anything, right? So this is happening as you are writing something. And then if I change it to maybe.none, it should be gone. So the error is just gone. Hopefully, no?
Return.
Yeah, return. Thank you. Right? But if I start throw, see, it immediately happens. So it's not even building, because that's the magic. But we could even do better. We could even do better. Here you see, like under the if statements, I have this action context, and it tells me like to convert this to this tertiary operator, right? But when we are analyzing these things, we know that we don't want the throw exception. We want to have return maybe.none. This is like the thing that we know we want to have that, right? So why not providing the developer with something here, just alt-enter and replace maybe.none, or it should be the other, replace throw with maybe.none. So this is wrong. And it just do the magic for us, right? And this is where CodeFix providers come into the play. Let's create a CodeFix provider as well, and I think then we should be done. Are we good on time? So CodeFix provider, surprisingly inheriting from CodeFix provider, and they need to be exported as CodeFix provider. One important thing here is that when we are it has a couple of things that we need to override. One of them is this fixable diagnostic IDs. So this is where we are connecting the CodeFix provider to the diagnostic that is reported. We say that this CodeFix providers understands those diagnostics and could repair them. So here we are returning the list of those diagnostic IDs. And then there is this get fix all providers, which if you are in Visual Studio, you do Control Dot or Alt Enter. It tells you like, do you want to fix it here or in this file or in this project or in this solution or like everywhere that this is happening? And that's because of this batch fixer that you could return. I'm not sure. I think in Rider it is not like that, but also some other tooling like .NET format. If it finds a fix provider for a diagnostic that could be applied automatically, it applies it everywhere if it is a batch fix provider. Then we have to implement this register CodeFix as async. depending how many diagnostics you're connecting to this provider, you have a list of diagnostics. Here it is just one, so I just went with the single. And where this is happening, the location that this diagnostic is reported to. And then what we want to do, we said every tree that we had is kind of equivalent to a source file. So if we have a compilation unit with the whole tree, it represents a source file, right? It is like a bidirectional. So if I create a source file, I could see its syntax tree. But if I change a syntax tree, does that mean I have a new source file? Yes. So this is a bidirectional. So if I go to the syntax tree, I change something in the tree, then I generated a new code. I changed the code that is there, right? So this is what we want to do. That's why I need the root of this tree and the node that the diagnostic is represented. And I just want to replace that throw statement with a return statement, which I don't have in here. Let's see, I think that would be my last code snippet, which is probably like this. And removing the extra line. So this return statement, it doesn't look very developer friendly, right, to write such a thing. There's a better way to do that. Let's go to my get customer. Here, if I want to do that, it would be return customer management system dot main dot fx dot maybe dot none. This is like the complete thing that we want kind of to return. I could copy this. There's another tool called Roslyn Compiler. Could paste it in here, and I could tell like generate Roslyn API calls to generate this code. Get Roslyn API code calls to generate this code. So what are the C# classes that if I call those things, they will lead to get this code? I don't know how to describe that. It's a recursive thing for Roslyn, right? So it gives me a compilation unit, as we saw in here. For example, this method declaration, this class declaration has a class declaration syntax equivalent C# class, right? The compilation unit also has a compilation unit C# class. So these are C# classes that are representing every element in the tree, and then I but what this represents as a C#. And then I basically copied this part to my application here. The return statement, it has a member access, which is like the return itself. I don't know, like customer management, it's like simple member access. I don't know what they are. But important thing is that as we mentioned, we also had the trivias in the tree, like the name, the spaces, the comments, and everything. So if I replace the throw statement with a return statement, I don't want the indentation, for example, to be destroyed. I want it to be preserved, right? So these are the leading trivia and the trailing trivia, like the things before that node and the things after that, which are not parting any role in the compilation of the application, but in the look and feel of the code. And then this should be fine, except the error that I have, but let's go here. And if I just Control Z to have the throw statement. Now if I replace this, it will just replace that with the whole thing that I have. Should I do that again? Yay, so Harry Potter with its wand. Okay, so that's it. And getting back to the tests, to testing the analyzer or source generator, everything, these are these packages. If I'm not mistaken, the X unit, N unit things are deprecated, so you don't need to do them like that anymore. You just need to reference the code analyzer or CodeFix providers, like the things that are coming from the framework, and you don't need the X unit ones anymore. And then it is a little bit more, a little bit complicated, but it gives you, so you have, for example, here I have a source, and then I want to test this source. I'm creating a C# compilation kind of object, and then I'm giving this source to that compilation and tells it like, I expect a diagnostic analyzer to be reported at this location, or I need like this source code to be outputted. And this is also one way that you could debug your source generators. Like you could have a unit test, put a breakpoint in your source generator, run the unit test, and then you will get like the debugger at that level. I hope this is now just the last run of the application, if it works. But I cannot compile because I have all these through statements here and there, which I forgot to implement. Oh, come on. Yeah. Return. Maybe that none. See? And now we should be happy. Come on. So we should be able to see customer not found things and not breaking the application. Okay, that's basically more or less, I hope I haven't forgot anything, what was planned for today or tonight. Questions? I could stop this. And QR code, don't forget. Yes, please.
Test here. In the CodeFix you implemented, there was some grayed out code, right? Meaning it can be further simplified. So is this possible with the CodeFix as well?
Let me go to the CodeFix provider. You mean inside the CodeFix provider itself?
In the generated code.
In the generated code, yeah. Let's go there. I know what you are heading to. This part. Yes, of course. So for example, in the CodeFix provider, you have access to this node and its semantic model. And you have also access to the root, right? The root is the compilation unit. And one part of that, if I like copy paste the whole thing into this sharplab.io, right? One of the things, the using directives, is it visible? Here, using directives here, right? So I could see if the namespace that I want to put there is already in the using lists, or I could change the using list as well, right? I'm just changing the syntax tree, but it wasn't just trivial to me to do that because usually you might be down in the source and something changed at the top and you might be surprised what has changed, right? So you could see if the using is already up there and then not adding it to the generated code.
So it was only the namespace?
Yeah, it was only the namespace that I'm just, to be sure, I just generated that if the using is missing or not. So it combines. Somewhere in here had a question again. Yes.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm just wondering any specific reason that we are using that partial method over the interfaces. I mean, they're different in the compile.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't implement that, they will be removed from the compile time, right? Partial methods.
The partial methods, that's a good question. I don't remember. But we could test that to see how it is. I'm not sure. Do you know the answer or do you have a question at the end? Someone? Okay, so one other way that could have been implemented is just instead of like generating the partial methods, I could have implemented a diagnostic analyzer that says, hey, you missed like reporting a diagnostic that this class is missing a partial, an apply method, and then have a CodeFix provider like alt enter in the class, generate the apply methods that are missing, right? This could have been maybe a more intelligent way to do that, but I just wanted like to at that point in time, I just had this idea.
Unlike the interfaces, you don't have to implement that. And that's why in compile time, maybe they are removed.
Could
if you haven't
be the case. I mean, we could just test it honestly. So here I think I could have like public partial class class customer, right? And if I say pop maybe private partial method. Come on. Void method. Here it's not telling me that. Must have an implementation part because it has accessibility modifier. So I think it is like this. If you don't put like the accessibility modifier, like private, public, internal thingy, then yes, it will be removed. But if it has that thing, then it will need the implementation to be there. Yes?
Right. We have one last question here, please, because Peter's already here. So
Okay.
we're gonna, I think
Could
we want to
talk
wrap it
later.
up quickly.
Unfortunately.
So you showed us this website which converts this string to a Roslyn
This one.
thingy. Yeah. Isn't there a source chain for that?
What for it?
Isn't there a source chain for that? Because it's like a string and it gives out an object. It's like the perfect example for a source chain.
Damn it, you're sniping me.
Yeah. Could be. No idea.
All right. I assume there are a lot more questions, but Peter's here. So,
But I'm here. We could hang out and
Feel,
like
feel
talk
free
about.
to ask Shahab simply later. Quickly fix that one again.
That's.
All right.
I think you need your slides.
Yes, my slides, please. So, first of all, thank you very much, Shahab. Thank you very much
Sure.
for coming.
Thanks for
It
having
was
me.
a very interesting talk. As usual, we have a small little
Oh,
speaker present for
thank
you.
you so much.
Very, very Linz thing. Big round of applause, please.
Thanks.